All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
What up, everybody? Wow, what a day. A lot on the docket. It's going to be a big day, everyone. Glad you could make it. Yeah. Kim, how are you?
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. All right. Watch little Kim. She was soloing today, Albert, on the big Nikki Maduro show this morning.
The Kim McAllister show.
The Kim McAllister show. She was soloing. Oh, they were great, of course.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Albert is here. Albert is riding herd over things. We've got a lot of Trump. There's a pretty important ruling in Trump Inc. world. It may literally do away with Trump Inc. He may have to surrender and liquidate essentially all of these properties. And when I say liquidate them, he may not actually be in the liquidation process, but he may be they may be taken over. And so that, contingent on an appeal, but it's pretty big. We'll get to that in a second. Rothmann's here today, and the great Anthony Davis, political commentator and our favorite British guy, is here today. So looking forward to that as well. Apart from Trump, I have stories from the sky and an update on the UAW, the WGA, and more. So, yeah, pretty excited about it. Let's get it going.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You can smash the like button anytime you want. There's no time frame that we prefer you to smash it, but we do ask you to give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and we do appreciate it. I guess first, front and center, we should get to this. Is there anything in the chat? Will you guys watch the chat for me? I hate to neglect our chatters. The chat, you can participate in real time. We're on from 11 a.m. Pacific time until 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, Monday through Friday. So if you want to participate in the chat, you do the arithmetic for your time zone, and you can jump right in. Otherwise, we read your comments, etc. Let me just get my credibility glasses on.
William just got COVID. He's from South San Jose, just got COVID, but the show is going to perk him up.
It will perk you up, William.
Yes.
We're sorry that you have COVID. It is honestly on a resurgence. I was just reading something about long COVID and the fact that, and yes, I've told you before, I think long COVID is a substantial concern and a substantially unreported problem around COVID. Don't get me wrong. I think now there's more conversation about long COVID than there used to be, but there used to be nothing. For the first couple of years, these people who had long COVID suffered in huge numbers with the mental acuity being a problem. You have that haze, that COVID haze, and it can last for years, not to mention inflammation in other parts of the body. So I just read the statistic, and it struck me as incredibly low. Got my COVID shot today. Woohoo, says Mike. Yeah. Natalie says, William, the hub, meaning she's addressing William in the chat. William Lundgren. William, the hubby and I just got COVID this week also. It's our first bout. Wow, you've lasted this long having not gotten it. Welcome to the party. What I was going to mention is that they officially, the CDC, they say 9% of those who contract COVID contract long COVID. I think that's low. I think that easily the number could be double that. So anyway, that's what's happening in the background, and thank you for posting that. So anything else on the chat? Kim and Albert, if you could watch that and let me know. Albert, when do you want me to? I will get to Trump, and Trump was slammed by the UAW president. I will play that for you in a moment. I mean, the UAW president really told it like it is. And I'll have some comments on that, and I'll play you that audio.
Wait, isn't Trump supposed to be there today?
Well, Trump is, the debate is tonight, and Donald Trump is, but this is an important thing. Yeah. He's going to, quote, be there, but he's actually not going to be at a union plant. Oh. So it's the oddest photo op imaginable. I mean, just because we've started talking about it, let me finish the point. Joe Biden, again, this is photo op. You can call it virtue signaling, whatever. It's significant, though.
Yeah.
Even if, symbolism is important. And the fact that the president, Joe Biden, went to stand alongside UAW workers and then actually demand on their behalf that their contract demands be met, that's not nothing. I think that's pretty impressive.
Bullhorn in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you can say, well, it's one-dimensional. He doesn't really, how long was he there? 15 minutes? It really doesn't matter. I mean, what did you want him to do? Walk the picket line for 8 hours? I mean, all of the media, all of the press, all of the attention that goes to that appearance is significant. That's why I say the symbolism is important when the chief executive actually takes a side in a labor dispute, a huge labor dispute. Now, there's some inevitabilities about this labor dispute when it comes to the evolution to electric vehicles and the like that I'd love to get more into. But just on the issue of showing up and making a point, Biden wins the day. So Trump, as Kim has said, is also, quote, going there, but the there isn't to a UAW line. The there is to a non-union shop. It's insanity to me. But I think even when asked about this, Trump goes, oh, I'm with the workers. And as I mentioned to you the other day, then everything else he says essentially is against the workers, saying they should take this contract, otherwise their jobs are going to be exported to Mexico. And Trump clearly is on the side of the C-suites. Anyway, we bounce around like a pinball in this show, but because we're mentioning the UAW, I just wanted to round out that point. Albert, I ask you, you're the master and commander. You're the sober-minded, clear-headed soul on this show. Do I finish out this thing that I've just begun with the UAW and Trump? Do we play that audio of him being called out? Or do I pivot in the professional manner that very few can, but I can easily, to the situation with Trump and the law and how the law finally caught up to Trump Inc.? I ask you, Albert, what you want me to do.
I trust your professionalism, but let's just keep it going with the UAW. Then we could go right into the New York getting Trump. Yeah.
All right.
Albert, thank you.
So let's do that. Now, this is the UAW, striking UAW chief, talking about Donald Trump and his effort to insert himself in this entire labor dispute. Here he is.
Politics, it's an ugly world out there, Sean, but it is relevant here. I want to ask you this. Yeah. You guys, I think, have withheld your endorsement so far for President Biden in a second term. Do you worry? He said, I'm super pro-union, President Biden. Do you worry? And does it go into your thinking that a strike could embarrass President Biden?
I don't think a strike would embarrass President Biden. I think a strike can reaffirm to him of where the working class people in this country stand. And it's time for politicians in this country to pick a side. Either you stand for a billionaire class where everybody else gets left behind, or you stand for the working class. The working class people vote. And as far as our endorsements go, as we've said, our endorsements are going to be earned, not freely given, and actions are going to dictate who we endorse. And I know the other candidate, wanted to come out the other day and talk about
that's Trump,
how our members are crazy for not backing him. But, there's two things I want to talk about with that person real quick, if I can have a moment. It's just, I'll never forget leading up to the 2016 election, that candidate talking about doing a rotation where they need to come to places like Michigan and the Midwest and send our jobs somewhere else where they pay less money and make us be begging for our jobs down the road. That's not something that works for working class people, and sure as hell not for UAW workers. And
there you go.
And he was on the air the other day saying that encouraging people to stop paying union dues. So that's not someone that stands for a good standard of living.
Yeah, stop it right there, Albert. I think the fact is that is part of dismantling any notion that Donald Trump is on the side of workers, something that should have been clear long ago. But the reason it's critical is Michigan is a state for Trump to win. This is about elections. And we can sit here and talk about philosophies as they pertain to workers and the evolution of the UAW and the automotive industry in America and the move to electric cars. But what Trump cares about is the election. There's a good piece in The Hill, I thought. I'll post it up on my Twitter feed or the X feed now. But in 2016, Trump won Michigan. According to exit polls, he only lost union households in the state to Hillary Clinton by a 13-point margin. This is in 2016. The Trump vote of 40% among union household voters was only slightly higher than the previous Republican presidential candidates had performed in the state. But Clinton scored much lower than Obama's 66% in 2012. John Kerry, when he ran in 2004, he got 61% of the union vote. And Al Gore got 62% in 2000. This is in union household voting. Clinton's vote was low because she took these voters for granted, they suggest. And I think that there was a lot in that election that was associated with that. You know, the problem with that institutional Democrat is you just check these boxes as always being there for you, and they're not anymore. I think that's true with the black vote. I think that's true with the Latino vote. And indeed, it's true with the union vote. So the other thing is that the union they lay down. They just didn't do much for Clinton back in 2016. They didn't think it was important. There was a sense that Trump wasn't going to win. Even in the Trump crew, they didn't think they were going to win. But anyway, let me just get on to the fact that when Trump was president, this is how anti-worker Trump is. This is the part that I just thought was so interesting. Even though, again, I just want to underscore the reason he's going to Michigan, Trump, is for purposes that revolve around his election. He doesn't, the dispute with workers, he doesn't care. He's obviously on the side of management. Here's how it worked. When Trump demonstrated himself as an anti-union president, he supported right-to-work laws that weaken unions, make it tougher for workers to win better pay, benefits, and rights on the job. He also threatened to veto the PRO Act. That's legislation that levels the playing field by updating outdated labor laws, making it easier for workers to democratically vote for union representation. Trump packed the Supreme Court with anti-union judges who've attempted to destroy public sector unions with decisions like Janus, which unfairly allows public employees to opt out of being in their union. Okay, so they're not paying union dues, but they can enjoy the benefits of collective bargaining. He stacked the National Labor Relations Board, the government agency responsible for safeguarding the nation's labor laws, stuffed it with anti-union members and an anti-union general counsel on the National Labor Relations Board. Again, as president, Trump made it legal for companies that violate federal labor laws, including workplace safety precautions and protections. He made it legal for them to be eligible for federal contracts. The one piece of leverage you have as government to enforce it, these labor laws, is the loss of federal contracts. He made it legal for companies to violate federal labor laws and still get those government contracts. He also cut the number of occupational safety and health inspectors, the fewest in history. Weakened penalties for companies that fail to report violation. Trump's administration also tried to weaken mine safety rules. He eliminated overtime pay for 8 million American workers and even wanted to eliminate the minimum wage, which, of course, he also did not support increasing from the current $7.25 that it is now. Trump wants to be a friend to working people on the issue of trade, but he gave over $115 billion in federal contracts to companies that offshored jobs. And he pushed a corporate tax cut that gave companies a whopping 50% tax break on their foreign profits. That created a financial windfall for them to do what? to move overseas. Trump's anti-union policies ran deep through his administration. He supported increasing funding for the Office of Labor Management Standards at the Department of Labor, responsible for regulating unions, while he also cut the budget of the National Labor Relations Board. That's associated with enforcing those labor laws. He, as you know, it was part of his administration's philosophy to undercut all of those regulations, all of those worker protections. I mean, on this, Biden should win. Biden supports workers' rights to organize. He's now done that photo op and those demands on the part of workers on the picket line. This is one of the most critical union fights in decades, and Biden is there for them.
Yeah.
Pro-worker, pro-union provisions are around in virtually every proposal that comes from the Biden administration. He should win in a simple evaluation of whether or not he is something of a representative for workers' rights. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I was just going to mention that it's the first time in history that a president has appeared on a picket line picketing with workers. Yeah.
The contrast between Trump and Biden couldn't be clearer. So Trump has the great American BS machine working, and nobody works it like Trump. But on the facts, there is absolutely the indisputable fact on labor. Trump and Biden aren't in the same universe. So that's what's going on, and I was encouraged to see that Fain call out, the UAW president, call out Donald Trump as really a servant to the billionaire class.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Look, our government is a servant to the billionaire class. Please don't misunderstand me, but that doesn't mean that the nuance isn't important. Pinky, what up with Pinky? $1 a day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And a big shout out, Pinky.
Big shout out.
Also, Luis, the MT Show. Paxlovid without the side effects.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Luis. Thank you. I want to take a quick moment and share something with you, if I might. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. There's something going on. We'll do more about Trump, of course, and labor and the shutdown of the government. That's all coming up with John Rothmann and Anthony Davis. Spencer Jaffe for a couple of bucks with a super sticker. Thank you. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Mm-hmm. If you want to support our show, we are crowd-funded, completely dependent on you. Without you, we go away. This show cannot sustain itself without you. So I'm so grateful for the Patreon and PayPal supporters. We scroll your name at the end of the show. A lot of you, it's interesting the number of people who make substantial contributions to the show through Patreon and PayPal, but they specifically say, please don't use my name. Don't put it at the end of the... So it's wild. And others, want to know why they're not there. We update it once a month. Anyway, you can help keep us alive. Go to themarkthompsonshow.com and click the Patreon or PayPal link to join our community and contribute. And those of you who have upped your contributions, there are a bunch of people who they were contributing like $20 a month. Now they upped it to $40 a month. It's quite humbling, and believe me, I take this very seriously. We hustle like hell to make this show happen and to try to give you a breadth of issues as well as some great guests. So it's terrific to have your support and see you realizing that. And Winthrop Chambers with a 5-spot. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the super sticker.
It's a very English name, a British name. Winthrop Chambers.
Winthrop Chambers.
$5.
Yes. Winthrop Chambers. Hello. I'm Winthrop Chambers.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
He does seem like the processes, protocols, and standards guy. That's true. We have a true Britisher coming today, Winthrop Chambers. Yeah. Anthony Davis is a brilliant commentator. He does a daily show on the Midas Touch Network. So I think he does a weekend show on the Midas Touch Network as well. Anyway, there it is, the information, themarkthompsonshow.com. Now, I did have a... Albert, again, I turn to you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, can I push the shout out that we got? I mean, there was the very first video We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, everybody, if you're just joining us. So we took this show from radio a year ago, and we moved it here to YouTube. And we've had growing pains, and, we're just getting to know and believe me, I'm experimenting with all kinds of things. It's something I'm taking very seriously, as you know, but not only the content of the show, which has always been my concentration, but also in the YouTube universe, how to build our footprint. That's why we ask you to share the show, for example. We ask you to share it to Facebook. Just hit the share and put it on your Facebook page. Say, I love this show. I watch it every day. Or check the show out from time to time. It's really good, or whatever you want to say. So I appreciate that. So one of the things we're doing for our 1-year anniversary is we're having you, look at this, Amber Anderson. Amber Anderson with a, is that $20?
Yeah.
$20 super sticker. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Amber Anderson. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're asking you to send different greetings to us, audio or video greetings for our anniversary. And our first greeting came in. Now, Albert, do you have it available, or did I rush you on this?
Yep, I have it.
Okay, now, before you run it, can we put up the banner where we tell people where they can send it?
Here we go.
There you go. So on the bottom of your screen, you can see you can send a short video or greeting, less than 30 seconds, to happyanniversarymts@gmail.com. And here is our first one.
Thompson, thank you. Tukaloo says thank you. You've been the best. Been the best year listening to you. I respect everything you've done. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Peace.
Love it. Quick and
so cute.
Beyond
I love the bird.
cute. That is Grady, and we love Grady.
That's Grady.
We'll play it at one point later on the show. I'll try to boost his audio.
Yes, Albert, try to boost the audio.
That is so cute. I love that video. This is going to be great. I hope people send in their videos. I can't wait to see you guys.
Now, again, everybody should send a video with a parrot on your shoulder.
Yeah,
that is part of the thing that we're doing, which is a...
What?
No, that was just so cool. I never expected to see a parrot on his shoulder.
Love it.
So send us a 1-year anniversary greeting. You can send a short video. If you're not up for video, just send audio. Send it from your cat, your dog. Less than 30 seconds, please. Happy anniversary MTS@gmail.com. So pretty great. And Albert is going to pump up that audio. This is where Tony is going to collect all of this stuff, and I've kind of thrown Albert into the fire because we just got it, and we also wanted to show people what it's like, to send one of these. So there you have it. Anyway, Albert, thank you for that. And
Albert, thank you.
Do it again a little bit later. That's the note on Trump and the unions. Sandy in RWC. Here's
Redwood
$10.
Yeah.
Redwood City. $10. I want to say big shout out.
Big shout out.
This is for Judy W.
Okay.
Judy W is in the chat. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And Candace for $10. Come on. How about
big
this?
Shout out.
Thank you, Candace.
Yeah.
Love that. That's really cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can I just spend a couple of seconds, just because I'm talking about labor, about what happened with the WGA deal?
Yes.
And the fact that the WGA did make a deal, and now they're disclosing certain details. There's a 7-page summary document which was distributed by the WGA's almost 12,000 film and TV writer members. And it specifies, for those who are curious, increases in wages and residuals, as well as language addressing the union's demands for minimum staff in television writers' rooms. We talked about that, not to get too much into the weeds. But, the idea generally is that the studios are trying to streamline the writing process, and they're trying to do that in many different ways. But this would, again, keep and exceed, that is to say, agree to demands for minimum staffing in television writers' rooms, payments based on the success of streaming shows, and protections against the use of artificial intelligence. It is a huge deal, and it is a victory for the WGA from what I've been reading and from everyone I've been hearing from who are in the negotiations. after 146 days of picketing and marching that really shut down Hollywood. The WGA has approved this deal, recommended unanimously by the Guild's negotiating committee, I should say. The WGA said the total value of the deal was $233 million, up from $86 million that the AMPTP had offered. So that's huge. So higher pay is part of it. Streaming and bonus data. This is kind of big, and I just wanted to share this with you. The contract establishes a system of providing bonuses to writers based on viewership on streaming services. That had not been the way it was. So the way it was we're a streaming service. We're not going to tell you how successful or unsuccessful a project is, and you don't need to worry about it. You, the writer, you just write that series for us. We're going to pay you more than you would have gotten. This was the idea behind it. More than you would have gotten when you would have made a traditional deal with a network where you can look at the ratings and how many people. We're going to give you more money, but you're not going to see the data, how many people watch it, okay? Well, the writers said, no. We want to participate in the profit. If the show does well, we want to do well. If the show doesn't do well, then you don't have to pay us as much. Writers already get residuals from shows made for streaming service, but the WGA wanted to establish a system that would reward scribes if their work drew huge viewership on Netflix, for example. The way compensation has typically worked on streaming is that the producers get paid up front but don't get to participate in the wins. That's what I was just telling you. The Guild sought to change that. This contract allows the WGA to receive confidential viewership metrics for original streaming shows based on hours viewed. Aggregated data can be shared. Then I mentioned minimum staffing. How about AI? That was a big thing, right? The writers were worried that AI was going to be used to essentially do the work of a human being. The new WGA contract does include language that regulates the studio's use of AI. It also provides flexibility to the Guild's members. Companies have to disclose to writers if any material given to a writer has been generated by AI or incorporates AI-generated material. The use of AI has become a huge, huge topic both in the WGA negotiations and in the SAG-AFTRA negotiations. So those are a few of the things that they won in what is a huge deal and a major change in this labor dispute that affected Hollywood for so long. But I'll remind you, there's another labor dispute going on. The actors and writers, I mean, you can have all the actors and performers. You can have all the writers you want. If you don't have actors, you're not going to have a set. And these actors are being tough about people showing up to promote films, and there are waivers being granted. I saw probably the highest profile actor who got a waiver. He's an actor, producer, director, is Mel Gibson. You can see how, Hollywood wants to kind of play ball and allow production to continue, but the actors are being pretty tough about it. And I'll say one last thing, and then we'll go to Kim's news. The actors in that negotiation, they are not negotiating right now. There is no ongoing conversation. So this is scary. This may continue for a while. And they're real people who are losing real things. And I just hope for some kind of decent resolution to that before too long. And I'm hoping that the WGA deal is instructive as to what might change in the SAG-AFTRA deal, such that the actors and performers can get something as well, and they can all get back to work.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, John Rothmann coming up. Kim's news, and then a big dose of Rothmann, as well as a huge dose of Anthony Davis. It'll be politics. All of you who are political junkies, stand by. Closing of the government, Trump Inc. going away, Trump's other legal problems, Kevin McCarthy, all of that. The Republican debate tonight between Rothmann and Anthony Davis. We'll get to all of it. And the other thing I would say is that there's another name in the mayoral race. You saw that, Kim, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And
Daniel
so,
Lurie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess he's an heir to the Levi's fortune.
Yeah.
What?
And yeah. And so somebody emailed me saying, ask John Rothmann about this guy and whether or not this is the reason that John Rothmann isn't running. So much to ask Rothmann as we continue. Smash the like button, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report sponsored by the very lovely people at Coachella Valley Coffee. I'll tell you a little more about that in just a minute. But first, how about these lovely people? New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez and his wife are pleading not guilty to bribery charges. They were
How does she fit all those gold bars in that small purse?
It's very difficult. But here they were at an event, and looks a little different today. Here they are headed to court. Oops. Maybe she can tuck them into that white shirt a little better. I don't know. Yeah. They were in federal court in Lower Manhattan today. He and his wife, the two co-defendants, they were released on bond. They are expected back in court next month for what could be the start of the trial already. Menendez accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, gold bars, and gifts in exchange for using his influence to enrich three businessmen and improperly help the government of Egypt. Menendez insists he will be exonerated, refuses to step down despite numerous high-profile Democrats calling for his resignation. And I will say that today on the court steps, they had set up microphones for these two to say their piece and speak to the public. They walked right by and didn't say a word. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. President Biden, he is urging a group in the House he's calling extreme Republicans to start doing the job that America elected them to do. President Biden was referring to Congress needing to pass a spending bill that will prevent a government shutdown. The deadline to avoid a shutdown, Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. So,
doesn't look good. I mean, it really looks as though this is going to happen. Yeah.
Hope they're doing something, Meanwhile, former President Trump, the president of the United Auto Workers, says he will not meet with the former president when he visits Detroit today. Trump's visit coming one day after President Biden joined striking UAW members on the picket line. UAW President Shawn Fain criticizing Trump for planning his rally at a non-union business as the strike enters its 12th day.
Yeah,
Mark, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, just unreal.
Meanwhile,
he's got a great wave, though. I'll tell you, Trump's got all that, you can say what you want about him. Make fun of his weight and his orange skin, all that stuff. I've never done that. I think the guy got a good wave, got a good look. He knows how to play the cameras and the BS. I mean, again, it's all a facade, but he does the facade better than most.
It is what it is. There he is waving. He will, again, be in Detroit today. Where he will not be is the Republican presidential debate. 7 other GOP presidential hopefuls will participate in what is the second Republican presidential debate. Trump, the overwhelming front runner among GOP candidates, is again skipping it. Tonight's debate will also be without former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who was in the first debate but didn't qualify for the second debate. He didn't meet the numbers that would qualify him for entry. So he's out.
Will Mike Pence be there, Kim?
Yes, Mike Pence will be there.
I wonder if he'll...
Cuatro Caños Mas.
Cuatro Caños Mas is what...
Yeah.
I guess he's changed his mind on the Cuatro Caños Mas. Since it is Cuatro Años Mas, maybe he should have changed his mind. But anyway, the point is that he's not all about Trump anymore.
No, he isn't. And that'll be an interesting debate. Again, that's being sponsored by Fox News, if I didn't mention that. Mayor London Breed of San Francisco wants to hold drug users and the homeless accountable before they get cash assistance from the city. Mayor Breed pushing a proposal that would require drug users to enter treatment before they receive financial assistance. So basically, people on welfare would have to take a drug test, and if they test positive, receive treatment before they could get any money from the city. This proposal would mean that homeless and formerly homeless people who are getting financial help from the city would have to be screened first, then enter rehab to receive money. County officials say about 5,200 people currently get money from county adult household assistance program in San Francisco. Some people receiving about $700 a month. You receive much less if you're homeless. It's like $100 and something a month. Mayor Breed says right now the money sometimes ends up getting spent on drugs because she says no one is tracking the funds. Vehicle theft in California is on the rise. According to new data from the FBI, the total number of thefts in the state of California was more than 198,500 that in 2022. So those are the new numbers on that. That is a nearly 2% increase from the previous year. The data indicated the biggest cities, though, aren't experiencing the highest rates of car theft per capita. Oakland, number one, with 12 thefts per 1,000 residents. Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco, 4 to 5 thefts per 100,000 residents.
Wow.
Or rather, per 1,000 residents, rather. Yes.
Huh. Numbers are pretty scary.
Yeah, they are. It is not looking good when it comes to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his visit to the Central Coast this week. They're really not so excited about him coming there. They would rather him stay away, and they don't feel that he represents the best for farm workers. The Salinas City Council formally against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' visit this week. Tuesday night, the council passed a resolution denouncing and condemning the Republican presidential candidate, his visit on Thursday. City council members Anthony Roca and Andrew Sandoval introduced the resolution, which Roca said is about standing up for community and calling out racism, bigotry, homophobia, and hatred for what it is. DeSantis is scheduled to hold a campaign fundraiser on Thursday. A discarded pizza crust being used as evidence against the suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer.
By the way, great pick of what's his name?
DeSantis?
DeSantis.
Little pinch face there.
Kim does hustle up some really great picks.
That's the way it is, yeah.
Yeah, for those not watching on YouTube, he looks like he's wincing a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very, very good. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to remark. I didn't mean to throw you off. Go ahead.
During a pretrial conference this morning on Long Island, it was revealed DNA on a pizza crust allegedly thrown into the trash by Rex Howerman matches a cheek swab taken from him after his arrest. Howerman remains held without bail after pleading not guilty.
And what are they holding? They're holding him for what? What is he accused of?
For murder. He's the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer.
Oh, wow. That's really big then. Thank you. I missed the front end. Okay.
That's because you were yapping, see, during the news. That's what happens. As you mentioned, the months-long...
Yeah, that's right.
The months-long Hollywood writers' strike is officially over. The Writers Guild of America announcing the 5-month-long strike officially ended at 12:01 this morning. WGA leaders officially giving their seal approval to a deal between the union and the Hollywood studios to end the strike, and that means the return of late-night talk shows. 2 HBO shows, Real Time with Bill Maher and Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, are scheduled to return this weekend. Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Seth Meyers all set to be back on the air on Monday. This report, again, sponsored by the lovely people at Coachella Valley Coffee, and you have a wonderful deal that is just for you, the Mark Thompson Show listener. It is 10% off across the board. And I'm telling you, this coffee is amazing. This tea is amazing. I've got my husband order the coffee. He's the coffee drinker in the house. And he's most of the way through the bag already and says it's really, really good. The tea, especially, I love the ginger mint tea, is amazing. So you get your 10% off CoachellaValleyCoffee.com at checkout. Enter Mark T and get your 10% off. And thank you for
so much great feedback from everybody who's tried it, and it's just that good. You know, I've been drinking this coffee for a few years now. I never thought they'd be part of our show. I'm so proud that they are. They're a small roaster. All the beans are hand roasted, and all the grow is fresh grow. That's why it's not the cheapest bean that you can find. Those cheap beans you're getting, that is old grow. That will not be, it will not have the richness, and it will not be the great taste experience that you get with Coachella Valley Coffee. And again, use a 10% discount. The thing I do is I get 2 to 5 pound bags because that's just a better value, but you do whatever you want and get the bean that you like. And they've got tasting notes on all the beans, so check them all out. We're so happy to have them on board, and we know that you're going to love it. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark T at checkout for 10% off.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Seriously, what the? Who's Mark Thompson? 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 Who's Mark Thompson?
What up, everybody? It is our Wednesday show. Wednesday we look forward to because Wednesday brings our buddy, that sexy fool, dominated the KGO airwaves. He's a student of political history and presidential history. And when it comes to San Francisco and Bay Area politics, he knows that like the back of his hand. He's the great John Rothmann, everyone. What's up, John Rothmann?
Everything's great. Delighted to be with you. And, of course, a lot to talk about. So let's get to it.
We should get first, I think, into the ruling in the Trump case, because I know you talk a lot about Trump and his danger to this democracy and to government. This is something that kneecaps him from the standpoint of his business. I don't know how it will affect his politics. Can you give us a moment on this?
Yeah, well, his whole reputation was built on the basis of his business acumen. And, of course, this is a shattering blow. The court chose to rule, essentially, that he lied. And he is now going to have to face the consequences. The fact that he will be stripped of licensing, I believe he will be stripped of his licensing in New York, cripples the Trump enterprise in New York, and does a tremendous blow to him. Of course, Mark, remember, it's all a conspiracy to stop Donald Trump from becoming president again. But I have news for you. You know, your little studio there, it's worth quite a bit of money. But did you know it's really worth about $50 million? Did you understand that? Because all the brilliance and the technology and your brand
sure
brings it to.
So you're referring to the fact that the specifics of the case, which essentially suggests that he inflates the values of things to get loans, and he deflates the values of things and undercuts the values of things when it comes to paying taxes and insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he will pay the consequence. Look, here's the point, though. Will it affect his political operation? The answer is no. If I were on the stage tonight, the Republican debate, I would ask each one of the candidates one single question. Do you believe that Mark Milley should be executed? Because that is what Donald Trump said. Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, should be executed. And then we had one member of Congress, Paul Gosar, who said he ought to be hung. Where are the Republicans? And that, to me, is the litmus test issue tonight. I will be watching at the Ronald Reagan Library to see whether or not the host of people posing the questions will ask that simple question: should Mark Milley be executed? I just want to know their answer. I know what Chris Christie will say. Chris Christie will say Donald Trump is unfit to be president, and absolutely right. And if you listened carefully to the discussion over the new book that has come out, Cassidy Hutchinson's book, and if you listen carefully to Jake Tapper's almost hour-long interview yesterday, what was amazing is she is a conservative Republican. She was a true believer. She says Donald Trump should never be in the presidency. If I were in charge of putting together the ads for the 2024 campaign, I'd have each one of those who have worked for Trump stand up and say whether they think he ought to be president again. After all, this is a guy who built his reputation on a television program where he said, "You're fired." Mm-hmm. And look at the reality here. The reality is that Donald Trump is a walking disaster. Can you imagine, Mark, really saying the incumbent chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff should be executed? Can you imagine? By the way, the deafening silence from members of the Senate and the House who have served on the armed services committees in the respective houses Where are they? The bankruptcy, the moral bankruptcy of those who should be defending General Milley, their inability to articulate, Republicans' inability because they're afraid of alienating the Trump base. What good are they if they're all profile and no courage?
There isn't a lot of courage on the part of the GOP to take on Trump. We saw it from the hours after J6, and even in conversation that you just were talking about with Hutchinson talking to Jake Tapper, talked to Rachel Maddow. I know she's still on the book tour, but the reality is there are some revelations in that book, or certainly some reminders in the book, of how completely untethered from any sort of, as you say, moral or ethical underpinning the entire administration became. They all essentially enabled Trump to do all of these things. And so, in a way, it's not surprising, and it's a bit depressing that there is no check in place to
should Mark Milley be executed? That's the question. It's a very simple, very direct question that should be posed to each one of the potential Republican candidates for president. What Donald Trump did was indefensible, unconscionable, and I will tell you, immoral. And he ought to be barred from the votes of Republicans. They should be reacting vigorously.
You're talking about when he calls for Milley's execution, or when he says, "Well, they used to execute people for treason like this." You're saying that's what you're talking about when you say
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Let me ask you a tougher. Let me press you on this a little bit. It's a weird place that we are, where we need to protect the ship of state from the supposed commander of the ship of state, Donald Trump, when he was president. You have a Joint Chiefs head in Milley who essentially took things into his own hands. Normally, you wouldn't be for that, would you? I mean, you would. You generally serve at the pleasure of the president, as they say.
Now, let me explain to you. When Richard Nixon was in the last hours of his presidency, the Secretary of Defense sent out a memo to everybody saying, "Do not implement any action ordered by the White House without my signing off on it." Of course, that was completely illegal. There's no foundation for it. But you have to use good sense in politics. And that is what was done in the Nixon days. There is an example of it. And in the end, Nixon knew better than to abuse his power. Donald Trump says, "Elect me, and I'll get all these guys. I'm going to put an attorney general in there who will prosecute them." Talk about the politicization of the Department of Justice. It's crazy.
Well, the other thing I would just say, John, this was, I thought, such a telling moment when you talk about how the GOP won't step up and, no one will say anything, and Gosar makes these comments and Trump makes these comments, and they sort of go orphaned, is during the last debate, and this will be the second one tonight, during the last debate, they were all asked if he is convicted. All right, the hypothetical is pretty sharp. If Donald Trump is convicted of these felonious acts, would you then support him as the next president of the United States? Would you still support him if he's the Republican nominee and convicted of these things, were that hypothetical to come to pass? And they all raised their hands, with the exception, I think, of Hutchinson and Christie.
That's correct. And Hutchinson will not be on the stage tonight because he didn't meet the qualification. But let me point out again, if I were the moderator, if I were asking the question, the one question I would ask clearly, precisely, unambiguously is, do you agree with Donald Trump that General Milley should be executed? That's my question. And let's see how these Republican candidates deal with it.
Somebody's asking in the chat how to watch it. I think it's going to be all over the...
No, it's all on Fox. Fox is covering it live, and then there will be an analysis on CNN after the debate. But otherwise, my understanding is the only place to watch it is on Fox.
John, what's going to happen with the government shutdown? It looks like it really will be shutting down. And I think this, look, I tend to be a pessimist a bit because these guys are so crazy. I'm talking about the extreme right. But I think they could hold the nation hostage for a longer period of time than we've seen in the past.
Well, I owe you and our listeners an apology, because last week I suggested the government will never be shut down on this score, that it would be prevented. But now I've really listened this last few days, and I'm afraid maybe I was wrong. The reason I say that is because the right of the Republican Party, the Freedom Caucus people, are determined not to give an inch. So here's Kevin McCarthy's choice. He can either deal with the Democrats and cut a deal, or he cannot deal with the Democrats and the government will be shut down. But for Kevin McCarthy, there is only one issue. I believe he is only concerned with keeping the speakership in his own hands. And at what price do you keep the speakership? Look, whatever you have to say about Paul Ryan or other Republicans who have held the speakership, you have to give them credit. They had courage. They were willing to stand up and they were willing to back off if they had to. Kevin McCarthy is a disgrace, and I'm hoping he rises above his own ambition to really react. Paul Ryan made a statement yesterday criticizing his colleagues, saying they were completely dysfunctional, and he's absolutely right. Can you imagine that someone like Paul Gosar or a Marjorie Taylor Greene or, well, you name the crazy members of the Republican caucus on the far right, that they have the power of death for Kevin McCarthy? If I were Kevin McCarthy, I'd say to the Democrats, come on, let's work together. I don't mind if I lose my conservative caucus. But remember, he only has 4 votes. And when they make that motion to vacate the chair, which he conceded to his opponents in order to get their support, he left himself wide open. By the way, you and I talked about this off the air for just a moment, but I just want people to know it's Social Security, it's the firefighters who would be cut off, it's our military that would be cut off. I mean, this is not a joking matter, and this is very serious. And even if it's for a few days or a few weeks, it is unconscionable that in this country, a few extremists in the House of Representatives can hold up the entire country. It's just absolutely wrong.
It's one more thing that should change in this country. I think you need to open up the hood on a bunch of things that are possible in this country.
Well, you can if you have a bipartisan House. Look, in the old days, you had Democrats and Republicans working together. I pointed out on my podcast that Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan were completely opposed to each other on so many issues. But at the end of the day, they sat down in the White House, had a drink, and worked things out. Remember, it was because of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill that Social Security was saved in the 1980s. They may have been diametrically opposed on a whole host of issues. When it came to national security, and this truly is a question of national security, they were willing to work together. And I could give you example after example historically of how that worked. We'll see in the next few days. And remember, we're now counting down the days until a decision has to be made. Can you imagine, by the way, sending home the members of Congress on the eve of this kind of momentous moment? And that's exactly what Speaker McCarthy did. He said, okay, go home for a few days, cool off, whatever you want to do. And he left us wide open.
That was bizarre. What was the thinking behind that, John Rothmann? That really, I thought it was a bad look. You know, they're going home.
Well, Kevin McCarthy doesn't, I don't know if he doesn't get it. I think he does, but I think he's only concerned with his own survival. That's all he's concerned about now. He wants to continue to be Speaker of the House, and he feels if he can get over this crisis, he'll be able to manage everything. And I don't think that is the case at all.
Speaking of counting down the days, Russ says, when will John Rothmann announce his San Francisco mayoral candidacy?
I'm still seriously.
Before you say anything, there's another. John, what's the latest on your run for mayor of SF? That's from Joseph. And I get many questions about your political aspirations and whether and the mayoralship.
I'm seriously thinking about it. Daniel Lurie just announced. By the way, he is a lovely fellow. Whether he has the depth is the real question. He has the money, and he may be able to buy that situation. We also have the situation of Greg Sir, who is being actively promoted by Mark Benioff. And I'm under a lot of pressure. I have to be very blunt with you, from a lot of people to run for mayor. I'm thinking about it. Let the dust settle. Let's see where we go. The election is not until November of 2024. We have plenty of time. But in the meantime, all of the speculation, and may I say, London Breed is at this moment, I think, the odds-on favorite to be reelected as mayor of San Francisco. Remember, we have a great disadvantage here in town. That's ranked choice voting. And with ranked choice voting, Mayor Breed has, if she's the second or third choice, and they begin tabulating that way, she'll do it again, which is what she did to Mark Leno when Mark ran against her. So let me tell you, all my options are on the table. I'm not making any decisions right now. Every day brings a new consideration. Let me point out, the teachers union may be voting to strike here in San Francisco, which would have massive implications. We have the whole question of the streets and how and what the mayor can do to clean up the streets. And these are all issues that really have to be dealt with. And I'm considering it. I don't want to make any joke about it or put off that decision, but I'm going to wait for the dust to settle and then decide.
You know, it seems just incredible that a city beset by so many things, car ripoffs, smash and grabs, retail theft, problems with running out of money for the schools, as you say, facing down a teacher's strike. This is a city beset by so many problems. It seems inconceivable that the mayor of that city would be reelected, but you just explained why it likely will happen.
Yeah. And all I can tell you is I don't wish Mayor Breed ill at all. Whoever is mayor of San Francisco has a very tough time. Were I to run, I would not run against anyone but for the city of San Francisco in order to try to do what can be done to make those corrections. And I will keep you posted, Mark. I promised you I would. And these are all issues which have to be confronted. And by the way, all you have to do is open today's newspaper and see all the issues confronting San Francisco. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, no one wishes her ill, but it just seems as though...
people do. That you have to circulate as I do and get the phone calls I get on a daily basis from people. And so this is a very, very complex issue. The key is San Francisco. I believe in this city. I believe in its future. But if you want to rent some office space for the Mark Thompson show, I can tell you where you can get massive office space here in San Francisco.
Yeah, sadly.
And, it is because you want a city to succeed. And this should not be a partisan matter. Frankly, I suggested, and I really believe it to be true, that the best minds in San Francisco, past and present, should get together, talk about solutions, and whoever runs for mayor should be coming up with solutions, not just rhetorical flourishes.
That's exactly right. Square says, Godspeed, Mayor John. So you have some support. John Rothmann, the podcast is Around the Political World with John Rothmann. It's a daily podcast. And John offers you his thoughts across the political spectrum in ways and on things that you may not hear anywhere else.
And so you can hear my interview with Mark Thompson. We post it every weekend, thanks to Mark and Albert and Kim. We post it, and it's amazing, Mark, how many people are interested in what you have to say and what your program produces. And I want to just urge everybody, I know this is a pay-as-you-go operation. Support the Mark Thompson program because we do not have a talk radio outlet here in San Francisco, shockingly. And so to have the ability to communicate through this methodology makes all the difference in the world. We now have over 20,000 listeners to the Around the Political World with John Rothmann. And I think there is a tremendous hunger, those of you who I hear from, for this kind of forum. So by all means, support the Mark Thompson program.
Thank you, John.
Congratulations on the 1-year anniversary.
Thank you. We have a little over 13,000 subscribers. We encourage everybody to subscribe, share the show. When John mentions, Albert, that he has 20,000 listeners and we only have 13,000 listeners, I have no choice, Albert, I hope you understand, but to blame you. I mean,
what?
You're the reason. Yeah. I mean,
Albert, thank you.
I'm just saying, Albert, perhaps you need to have a good talking with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and go, how come John Rothmann has 20,000?
My bad.
Mark,
I'm sorry.
All right.
Mark, can I answer the question?
Yes.
I don't charge. I get up every morning. I give you 10 minutes. It's no more than 10 minutes. And that's why we have that volume. But understand, if you have what Mark has, which is Kim and Albert and production costs and all the rest, that becomes a whole other issue. And these kinds of programs deserve support. They deserve support so that people have this forum. And the same thing applies to Nikki Maduro. I mean, if we are going to have some vehicle in San Francisco for dialogue and discussion, this seems to be what we have to do. I wish it were otherwise. October 6th will mark the 1-year anniversary of the termination of KGO. And let me tell you, Mark, people walk up to me all the time and say how much they miss it. Somebody came up and said to me, "Didn't you used to be John Rothmann?" So,
John, we love you. Stay in touch and don't change a thing. Thank you for the nice words. John Rothmann.
See you Wednesday.
Yeah, look forward to it. Wow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We got quite the second hour. I will tell you now. All the stations on the Mark Thompson network, please alert. We'll have the great Anthony Davis, who's a great political mind, and our favorite Britisher. He's been named our favorite Britisher by a staff poll that we did. And then in the last half hour, Diane Diamond has done a new book about conservatorships. And for those who are dealing with elderly relatives or they themselves segueing into the senior years in ways that might involve turning over certain things to family members and to the state, it's an area fraught with problems, okay? Huge issues, as you know. Conservatorships really came to a pretty high profile with the whole Britney Spears thing, where they literally controlled her life for years, while others seem to be benefiting enormously financially by taking that control. That is a thing. There is a business associated with conservatorships, and Diane Diamond's done a new book about it, and it's instructive and revelatory in some ways. Revelatory would be a ding word. By the way, you'll notice I'm, during the conversations, not dinging much at audience requests, but I will go back and ding diametrically, which was used by, it's just such a, you know what I mean? Yeah. So Diane Diamond will join us after Kim's News, bottom of the next hour. Now, Kim, Albert, tell me, can we do a news capsule and then get to Anthony Davis? Is that cool?
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right. Smash the like button like a boss. Kim's News next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes, on the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Let's get to tonight, because here's what we got going. It is indeed the second GOP presidential debate, and the Republican candidates are getting ready to face off on the stage. 7 hopefuls participating in the second GOP debate held in California, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. The event, hosted by Fox News, will once again be without former President Trump, the party's frontrunner, who will instead be in Michigan, supposedly meeting with striking UAW workers, but not striking alongside them or at a facility where they are striking. So that's that. Speaking of Republicans, there's a group of them, congressmen, trying to prevent federal funds from being used to bail out sanctuary cities. It is led by Texas's Mike McCall, who says New York City and Chicago need to be held responsible for a migrant crisis they helped create. The No Bailout for Sanctuary Cities Act would prohibit the use of additional federal funding for food, shelter, healthcare services, legal services, or transportation costs for migrants. There you go. A U.S. soldier who illegally crossed into the North Korea area is now finally back in American custody. Yeah. It's been a while getting him back in, but here he is. This is earlier Wednesday, North Korean state media announcing U.S. Army Private Travis King will be expelled from the country. King was taken into North Korean custody in July after he inexplicably bolted right across the DMZ zone during a tour rather than board a flight back home to the United States.
Yeah, inexplicably, of course. Yeah.
I'll take it. A judge has ruled former President Trump and his company, as Mark mentioned earlier, are liable for fraud. That's right. You want that
this
picture?
is their new
You want this picture?
No.
I don't know. Either one will work. How about this one?
No.
This judge, in his ruling, found Trump made false and misleading valuations for his real estate assets over nearly 10 years in order to secure loans and insurance deals. This ruling came in response to a request by New York Attorney General Letitia James seeking judgment on claims in her civil lawsuit against Trump, which is scheduled to go to trial on Monday. That is happening. The trial will go forward, even though the judge already says Trump is liable. So apparently there were two prongs to this case. One, is he liable? Two, what are the damages? So the trial will determine the damages. There is a landmark marijuana bill expected to be advanced by the U.S. Senate today. Where are my weed smokers at? That's pretty much it. The bill would give the marijuana industry access to banking services, finally, and provide legal protection to banks that offer services to state-approved marijuana businesses.
Doesn't anybody better weed?
Yeah.
The Senate Banking Committee is expected to vote on the bill today, sending it on to the full chamber. And what's interesting about this is that if marijuana dispensaries for a long time have been targets for thieves because they've had to keep cash because federal rules dictate that they are criminal, right? That's not legal to sell marijuana, and a federal law states that. So the federal banking rules don't apply. So they couldn't get bank accounts and had to keep large amounts of cash on hand at their stores, so they're making them targets for theft. So this is a big deal. This bill would give marijuana's industry access to banking services, finally.
Yeah, it's huge. What Kim's saying is absolutely right. You store that kind of cash, and you're just a target. And so this would allow credit card use. It would just open the door to making these businesses more viable without the security risk.
The theft and lost inventory are blamed for retailers losing more than $112 billion last year. That, according to the latest retail security survey by the National Retail Federation, it says the average rate of shrink in 2022 was up 1.6% from 2021. The report comes as a growing number of retailers are seeing an increase in organized retail crime. Matter of fact, we have Target yesterday saying they're going to be closing down stores in San Francisco, Oakland, I believe the city of Pittsburgh in the Bay Area, and other states as well, because retail theft is making it not profitable anymore. Oh,
jeez.
Bruce Springsteen, lastly, is postponing the remainder of his 2023 tour. The boss has been recovering from peptic ulcer disease over the last few weeks. Doctors are advising him continue treatment through the rest of the year. Springsteen's promises that he is on the mend. He says he can't wait to perform next year, but he's got to take some downtime and recover from this peptic ulcer disease. So our good wishes to the boss as he recovers. Yes.
Absolutely.
This report is crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you. You can find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. That is where the Patreon and the PayPal links are located. And yes, indeed, it is The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow.
Seriously, what the
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Big shout out.
My words upset so many people.
Loving it, loving it, loving it. Got a big chunk of show ahead for you. In fact, I'm really looking forward to this conversation with a freelance journalist. She's an award-winning freelance journalist at that, Diane Dimond. This new book she's got is pretty wild because these conservatorships are really largely unregulated. And so the book is about these conservatorships. They're oftentimes called conservatorships anyway. It's called When Guardianship Goes Wrong. We're Here to Help is the name of the book. And again, these state-run guardianships, or conservatorships as they're sometimes called, largely unregulated, not really understood, more and more populated by people who are financially motivated predators, frankly. You know, at life's end or toward the waning years of life, there are fewer and fewer options sometimes. And as a result, you end up making decisions that are titanic, huge, but by the same token, may be completely wrong. So with 1.5 to 2 million Americans under court control, this book has, met its moment. Here to help. We're Here to Help, it's called. When Guardianship Goes Wrong. Diane Dimond, bottom of the hour. Now, is Anthony coming or not? What's going on with this?
I thought Anthony was coming. I just messaged him. He's scheduled to be on now, so hopefully he'll pop in any minute.
Okay, he is our favorite Britisher, but he may drop. He does that 5-minute news. Mm-hmm. He may drop in the rankings.
Uh-oh.
If we establish that he somehow, on the other hand, we're pretty forgiving on this show. So
yeah, we're flexible. It's
he's
all right.
likely okay for the first one getting into the outfield, but we hope to get him. We got a pretty good chunk of politics with Rothmann before. I would like a little bit of a palate cleanser, Albert. So I was thinking about stories from the sky.
Yeah.
Can we rally a stories from the sky? I mean, I have it in there, but I'm just wondering, are you okay with it? I mean, you are the boss.
I am okay, and I'm standing by for the open.
All right.
Albert, thank you.
All right. Smash the like button if you would.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Request. It costs you nothing to give us a thumbs up. Thank you. Please share the show with those who might benefit. Facebook is where we really could use you sharing this show. So in between pictures of your child graduating or your grandchild graduating or whatever, just click the share, the arrow, and you put it on Facebook, and boom, it is done. So thank you for that.
Smash it with your iron rod.
We continue here with something that we like to... all right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right. Now, we continue here with something that we like to call Stories from the Sky.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
Where to start, friends? Where to start? We have it for you in such a big way. Let me start with the grim. Let me start with the dark.
Oh.
The unbelievable. An American Airlines flight attendant found dead in a Philadelphia hotel room.
What?
The 66-year-old was found unresponsive with a cloth in her mouth. It's awful.
Oh, God.
This is a murder, Albert. That's what this is. The police department's homicide detectives division is investigating. No weapon recovered at the scene. Philadelphia Police Chief Inspector Scott Small said that cops are investigating the incident as a suspicious death. Really? There were no signs of forced entry, and the unidentified woman was on several medications. American Airlines saying they are devastated by this news of their colleague. A pilot, Mike Beaton is his name. He is sacked, as they say in Britain.
Uh-oh.
He is done. British Airways has not only fired him, they have banned him from flying. The reason? A cocaine binge before flight.
I was going to say a couple cocktails. This is even worse.
The pilot reportedly, how dare you, Albert? The pilot reportedly boasted about his antics to a stewardess or flight attendant who raised the alarm. British Airways has confirmed that the pilot is no longer employed by the airlines.
So he told a flight attendant, "Oh, I've been doing some cocaine today."
It's kind of worse than that.
As he buckled in.
The father of one had been due to fly from Johannesburg, South Africa to London. Instead, he was flown to Heathrow as a passenger when he tested positive for drug use.
Yeah.
They go into a big thing about safety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they make it clear that
Sayonara, sucker.
Yeah, he's out. He said, though, the group met at a nightclub before heading back to one of the men's flats where the drugs were apparently there. I've lost, this is a quote, this is in a text message he sent. I've lost my shirt somewhere, and one of the local lads produces a plate with a few lines of coke. So then there's a debate about whose chest is best to do a bump off.
Oh.
So they were doing the bumps off each other's chests. The Civil Aviation Authority has withdrawn Mr. Beaton's medical certificate, banning him from further flying.
Hope it was worth it.
Yeah. So he is done.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. May want to look into being a private pilot after that.
I hope not.
That, my friends, is Stories from the Sky.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He is our favorite Britisher. You may say, really? There's so many Britishers, like more than Mick Jagger or Sting and that's just music. Politicians there in Great Britain or the royalty. Well, we took a staff vote. And Anthony Davis, the sharp political commentator whose daily briefings have become a regular part of American life, he won our staff poll. He is our favorite Britisher. Put it together for Anthony Davis.
I want to know how many people on that staff that voted.
Look, you people who question the vote are really getting to be a pain in my ass.
Right?
All right?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more than me, trust me, in the coming months.
There is a seed that has been sown, and it's now become a political tactic, really, in this country to question the vote, right?
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump was questioning the 2016 vote before it happened, and questioning the 2020 vote before it happened. And the line was, if I don't win, it must be fraud. Except when you do win, then is it still fraud? I mean, who knows?
It's exactly right. Anthony's so right on when he talks about the fact, and this goes back to something that I had alluded to just kind of in a passing comment. The Trump people didn't expect to win the 2016 election. They weren't even prepared to win. They weren't even really trying to win, many of them. They were trying to burnish the brand of Trump. And in that same way, they were sort of prepared to put up some kind of protest about why he lost or explanation about why he lost. And then when he actually won it, they still floated a bit of that, didn't they, Anthony Davis? I mean, remember he had that whole thing about millions voted illegally in New England, and he actually put government money into an investigation about that.
I mean, I think they're still coming to terms with the fact that they won, because he certainly wasn't ready to be in the White House. I mean, he didn't know anything about government, he didn't know anything about international trade, didn't know anything about protocols, and you would probably want to gen up on some of that stuff if you think you're going to win. But I mean, I read that he was planning on setting up a TV station, like a Trump TV channel. Yeah. And that was what he was hoping to promote by pretending to want to be the president for a year or so. I would say, because I'm still kind of getting over the ABC Washington Post poll from a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw that, but it actually put Donald Trump ahead of Joe Biden in the general. And, look, these polls are all pie in the sky, and you can make anything come out the way that you want it to come out. But if we are complacent about wanting or allowing an authoritarian into office in the US, it will happen. You know, it's not a two-horse race. You've got one guy who's too old but is doing it to save America from fascism, and then you got another guy who's the fascist, the authoritarian, who's not even hiding it. I mean, if you've read any of the stuff that's been published by Project 2025, which is this 900-page document, which details exactly the authoritarian plan for any Republican president in 2024. It doesn't have to be Trump. It's whoever they, install. It's written by the Heritage Foundation. You'll realize that, this is really scary stuff. And I never thought that the U.S. would ever become one of those countries where they gas their own citizens or prevent people from accessing health care or any of the things that have changed in the last few years.
Well, you'll remember during the Trump administration, he wanted to know why we can't, shoot these protesters in the legs,
That's right.
just shoot them in the, there was it's a total disconnect, but it is the sort of thing that, an authoritarian would want to do. And it's interesting you mentioned this Heritage Foundation plan and strategy, because in a way, Donald Trump is a perfect candidate for that. I mean, should he ascend to office again? Because he's completely disinterested in ruling, and he's only interested in recriminatory, charges that he can gin up from the Justice Department. He can even, get his IRS to go after certain enemies of his, and I think he's proven that with the FBI agents who were, who were the investigators on the part of the FBI who then ended up getting audited. It was a bizarre thing that both of them got, a random audit. Come on. But more to the point, he is so disinterested that the dismantling of government, the sort of Steve Bannon-esque way that they could pursue that, and it's very much detailed, as you say, in that Heritage Foundation strategy, he's perfect to implement that because he has no real opinions of his own beyond those that I just mentioned.
He's an empty vessel, Right. I mean, this is why the Russians wanted him years ago and identified him as a mark that they could support to kind of push towards wanting to be the president, run for the presidency, because he's so dumb about that type of stuff. And if you compliment him because of the narcissism, if you compliment him, then he'll like you. It really is as simple as that. And so people know how to use him and abuse him. You remember, the briefing documents, the security documents where they had to write Trump's name every third word to keep him interested in and turn it into a one-pager. And in the end, do you remember he said, if there's something important in it, they'll tell me. Why do I need to read it? That was the moment I was like, how have we not had World War III? And now he's talking about executing the former Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, executing him. He posted that the other day. Mark Milley was the guy who kept us safe for 4 years. He was the guy that spoke to his counterpart in China and said, look, I know Trump's saying all this crazy stuff about China, but trust me, we've got it under control. He's not going to press any buttons. You have to be absolutely clear about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And as a mark or an empty vessel for people or organizations like the Heritage Foundation, in fact, there are 70 far-right advocacy groups that have come together to write Project 2025. Trump doesn't read it. He's not interested in it. He has no interest in policy. For him, it's all personal. It's just about retribution, people that have wronged him. He was talking about shutting down NBC and MSNBC the other day and having them taken off the airwaves for not supporting him. This is what we can look forward to. And if that WAPO ABC poll is even close to correct, we have a big problem in this country. Everything that we know to be normal will change. All of the pillars of society, from criminal justice through healthcare and education. I mean, he wants to shut down the Board of Education. He doesn't want to have people educated. It is just terrifying, Mark. And, I'd like to have some levity in our conversations occasionally, but on this subject, I just can't find it funny anymore.
Well, and you point to a poll, and as you, I think, correctly say, polls are, you can't hang too much on the hook of a poll. On the other hand, the constellation of polls, the collection of polls that are pointing the way you're suggesting, dangerous way, that Trump's viability as a candidate is real.
Yeah.
That has to give you a pause. What has our politics in this country, and it's interesting to talk to someone who, wasn't born here. Has our politics struck you as now just been, it's so toxified, we're so dug in, we're so siloed in terms of our information that this actually may come to pass just based on the fact that there's no real information getting in?
Well, someone said to me the other day, maybe America gets what it deserves. Maybe we do need a second Trump presidency. Maybe the country does need to be burned down, the systems and the institutions burned down, because you could argue that they're not great in the first place. You could argue that the justice system needs reforming and police brutality, like various things that we are unhappy with, that we would like to see more evolution in terms of change that Joe Biden is not really able to get to because there's so much to do. And the problem is Trump makes a compelling argument. He says it's all corrupt, it's all this, it's all that. Let's just shut it all down and they want to rebuild it in his image. So it'll be a far-right Christian nationalist version where, education will go back to having God in class and people will be taught a religion in school. Maybe the U.S. has just taken itself for granted. It's such a young country. I think this is what people forget, is that the US hasn't been around long enough to have been through all of this drama. And the UK and certainly, European nations have been around for so many years that they've been through this in the past. We've seen uprisings and revolutions and insurrections and all of these things. They've come and gone through history. But the US, 9/11... January 6, I'm talking about now recent history, excluding the Civil War. There haven't been these kind of huge moments in history that bring about change. So look, I'm not rooting for Donald Trump, please understand that. But, what's it going to take for American exceptionalism to be what's the word? I want it to be undone.
A cold slap in the face.
Well, I want it to be undone. I don't want people to take America for granted. And American exceptionalism, where people say we are the greatest country in the world, it stops people from being conscious about the fact that a fascist dictator can take over the country and lock up his political opponents and put LGBTQ plus people and minorities on the back burner. And it would just be awful, and yet people are saying, well, Biden's too old, so maybe Trump's looking like a better alternative. What are you, nuts?
Yeah, I don't know what, as you say, one has no moorings whatsoever when it comes to, actually getting this country to a more righteous place. And the other, you can say what you want about Biden. As someone who falls on the progressive spectrum on many issues, he doesn't go far enough, but he is certainly, not a whiff of the authoritarian that Donald Trump clearly wants to be. The sucking up to authoritarians that Trump was doing was embarrassing. It was shameful. I was ashamed for him.
Like no one else liked him. European leaders thought he was an idiot. And whereas people like Vladimir Putin, who's obviously a former KGB agent, he knows to say nice things to Trump, to make Trump, connect with him. Kim Jong-un the same, Xi Jinping the same, Viktor Orban the same, Erdogan in Turkey. All of these dictators, they connected with Trump and Trump connected with them. But, I wanted to say something to you, Mark, which is I've been thinking a lot about this kind of polarization. And I wish the Democrats would make more of the fact that their message is live and let live. If you want to vote Democrat, if you want to have progressive thinking, we say you just do whatever you want. Just don't make me do it. That's basically what it boils down to. You want to have an abortion, have an abortion. Don't force me to have an abortion. If this is kind of the how it works. You want to worship a god, you want it to be Allah, you want it to be somebody else, it doesn't matter. Just do it yourself. Don't force me to do it. And that live and let live attitude, I think, is a really easy thing to market. I think people can understand that, get on board with it. Now, the Republican version of that is, you got to be a Christian or you're not a proper American, a white Christian or you're not a proper American, and you can't abort a baby or a fetus, I should say. That is inappropriate. It's not what God would want, and all of this kind of religious extremism. And that really, for me, is the difference. The only area that this argument comes undone is like gun control, because if Democrats were like live and let live, they'd be like, yeah, have a gun, shoot up a school, do whatever you like. It's the moral compass that is the difference, and that's why it's so nuanced and such a difficult debate to have, because that live and let live attitude it comes with caveats. So it's not quite as simple as, I might say.
Sure, and I'll push back. I mean, I essentially agree with everything you said, but this is the pushback you would get, might be a better way to put it. Yeah. This live and let live party is making me vaccinate, is making me wear a mask. It kind of falls into the same category, I would suggest, as the gun control thing. Yeah, the party's doing that because of public safety and because of research that we have to this point. Now, the research may ultimately prove incorrect, or we may have to modify it, but that's where this stuff is coming from. Still, from a live and let live standpoint, they go, hey, you keep talking about the authoritarian fascism. You're all over me when COVID hit, and you're still all over me on other issues as well.
But 1 million people died in COVID in the US. This is the difference, isn't it? It's like public safety. I think collective responsibility really is the answer to this, because it's the same with the Green Revolution. No one must say Green New Deal. I mean, don't say those words. It's so offensive to people. But, if you haven't looked out the window recently, the planet is burning. And so, how much fire and brimstone do we need to experience for people to kind of get on board with the idea of collective responsibility for climate change? And it's the same with a pandemic. The plan for dealing with a pandemic had been written years and years ago. They didn't just make it up. It wasn't something that the CDC just decided at the 11th hour. This has been the plan all along. You try and get a vaccine together. And they did it in record time. And it was the skepticism that caused the conspiracy theories. How's it possible to do it so quickly? It must be a bioweapon. They're going to inject me and it'll make me vote Democrat. I mean, these were the conspiracy theories that people were putting out there. And unfortunately, bad news travels fast. And so it's just unfortunate that we had a pandemic the same year as an election year, right? Because Trump only cared about getting reelected. And instead of using the pandemic to bring us all together, which anybody with half a brain would have done, he actually used it to divide us. And so,
I didn't mean to interrupt, but the varnishing of the history of COVID from Trump at the time, it's going to go away. Even his own, he was in mortal danger. He was close to death, apparently, based on the Hutchinson book.
Well, he looked terrible when he got up on that balcony and did that very kind of dramatic removal of the mask and like looking to the moon. And he looked like an authoritarian. In fact, apart from him standing with the Bible outside the church he'd never been to before across Lafayette Square, I have never seen him looking more like an autocrat than when he did on that balcony and removed the mask and kind of had this strongman pose. Those moments in American political history for me are the most terrifying because, that's who he wants to be. It's in those moments of weakness where he tries to faux strength that we see who he really is. I mean, this is a guy that wanted military parades because they do it in North Korea and he thought it would look good here. I mean,
he got it. He got the military parade. It's amazing that he got it, but I didn't think he'd get the military parade. I didn't think he'd get the wall funding. He essentially jackhammered the wall funding out of the Pentagon. He couldn't get a decent, regular, straight through the front door appropriations on the wall. So he found the money elsewhere. He's
a piece of work.
Brutal. He's a piece of work. Oh, last thing before, there it is, the 5-minute news with Anthony Davis. You can find it every day. And then he does the weekend show on the Midas Network also. Midas Network is huge. Anthony Davis is a big deal.
Bless you. I actually have a new show on Wednesdays, which I'm going to be doing in about half an hour, called Uncovered, where I partner with Ron Filipkowski, who is a former federal prosecutor. And now he exposes the far right. And he has a wonderful Twitter where he's kind of posting all day and every day. He listens to podcasts and watches videos and goes to rallies, places that you and I would be terrified to even go to. He's made us stronger stuff than I am. Anyway, I do an hour with him every Wednesday now on the Midas Media Network. And
that's great. Okay, so we'll watch for that on Wednesdays. And what's that called again?
It's called Uncovered.
Uncovered. I love it. Well, we love our visits with you. We want more. So there's a lot to talk about. In fact, there are a bunch of viewer questions that I'll put them to the side for maybe your next visit, which I hope will come, as I say, as soon as you can manage it. Thank you, Anthony.
My pleasure. Great to see you.
Anthony Davis, everybody. Love it. Love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Our favorite Britisher. Rocked it. Yeah. I have a question for you, Albert. Maybe you can help me. I'm thinking that we should get to Diane, and then we could...
I was about to tell you, let's just get straight to Diane, and then maybe we could...
It seems like we can bring her on, but she might not be able to hear us. She might have an auditory issue. We'll see what happens when we bring her on. We might have to reconnect.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Kim, how are you?
Okay, so this is working without the net.
She says she can't hear us. She might need to
cannot hear us? Well, why don't you tell her to
reconnect? Yeah, why don't you reconnect and try to come back on?
Yeah, but you need to communicate with her in some way beyond telling her that, because she can't hear you.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Thinking. Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
All right. So anyway, we'll get Diane to drop.
Let's just go to news then. I'll try to get Diane set up during that time.
Now you're talking like a producer. I love that. Thank you,
Albert. Thank you.
All right. So smash the like button for
it with your iron
Anthony
rod.
Davis, for Diane Diamond, who is coming up, and Kim's News, a news capsule. Next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Senate leaders on both sides of the aisle are calling for the House to avoid a government shutdown. Senate Majority Leader and New York Democrat Chuck Schumer said on the Senate floor, House Republicans need to stop catering to the whims of the hard right. Kentucky Republican and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said his colleagues need to pass short-term funding legislation and avoid a harmful, unnecessary government shutdown. We are just hours away now from the second Republican presidential debate. Missing from the debate stage tonight in California, GOP frontrunner Donald Trump holding a rally in Detroit, and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who didn't qualify. The 7 candidates in tonight's debate were all in the first debate in Milwaukee as well. There's a group of Republican congressmen sponsoring the No Bailout for Sanctuary Cities Act to protest federal funding. The Texas Congressman Mike McCall, leading the group, says sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago should be held responsible for the migrant crisis. The 4th largest jackpot in Powerball history is up for grabs tonight. The top prize, an estimated $850 million. The winner can claim the full amount in 29 annual payments, or you can take home that lump sum of about $397 million. I'm telling you, somebody has to win. It's probably none of us. But
there was a lottery winner, right? This is breaking news. I just saw this, Kim.
No. But
yes, let me augment your already comprehensive report to tell you that in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the winner of the $1.6 billion Mega Millions jackpot in August, third largest, but it's the 3rd largest in U.S. history. Remember, time was running out. That person has come forward to claim the prize.
What?
Yeah. The winner's name remains anonymous for 90 days from the date the prize was claimed.
I bet they were setting up their LLP situation.
Oh, you're right. LLP, LLC.
Yeah, LLC, whatever.
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. They were setting that up because they didn't want to be named.
I think you're right. Anyway, there you go.
They had to get that all together because, You have to worry about that. When you win that much money, people are going to come after you for your money.
Yes.
So they have to, get that all dealt with. There's a weird new report out. I'll just tell you this lastly. Cher is being accused of kidnapping her son. This is according to court documents. The allegations were made by Marie Angela King, who is the estranged wife of Cher's son, Elijah Blue Allman. King is claiming 4 men removed Allman from their New York City hotel room on their wedding anniversary last November while they were working on their marriage. King also claims one of the men told her they were hired by Cher. The court documents were filed by King last December, a little over a year after Allman filed for divorce from King. This is getting weirder and weirder and weirder.
Wow, that is too bizarre.
It is. Oh, one more story I wanted to share with you. This Airbnb, they are offering a special 2-night stay in the Scottish Highlands for fans of the hit movie Shrek. October 13th, fans can go to Airbnb.com and request to book a vacation in a replica of Shrek's swamp home. The listing is near exact copy of the house from the movie, even down to the beware of ogre signs littered across the property. The lucky fan who wins gets a free stay in the home October 27th to 29th. To celebrate the listing, Airbnb is pledging to make a donation to a Scottish children's charity.
Wow.
And this report is sponsored by you, and that means we do rely on you to help support the show. Find us at themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com. You'll find the Patreon and PayPal links right there. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Why are you yelling?
That's not fake. That's real.
It's fantastic.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Wow. Well, we have something happening that I was very excited to get Diane Dimond on the show. She's got this book that I think is so intriguing. She cannot hear, though, I don't think. Yeah. Here she is, but she cannot hear us. You cannot hear us, can you? Cannot hear us. You can't hear, can you? No. This is awful. I know. I don't know.
She's really cute, though, in her not being able to hear.
Well, let me just see. We love you, Diane Dimond. You can't really hear this. I'm thinking we may have to reschedule. What do we do, Kim? This is brutal.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it set up through Zoom, but I'm not sure if that's going to work either. So we might have to just reschedule.
Oh, this is so bad.
That's
I
too
really
bad,
want to
'cause
talk about this.
And she is, she's headed to travel as well. So this might be our last opportunity to talk to her for a while.
Well,
Maybe, I don't know, she has headphones or something else.
Yeah, can she plug in, Albert, or can you call her, or I don't know. We can
I'm
work
trying
this all out.
Zoom.
Yeah.
See if I could just share that. But
yeah, it's tough. I think
Albert, thank
it's
you.
Very, very difficult. Yeah, you could share Zoom and then share it. I
know, it's a bummer.
Yeah,
But
so Kim,
yeah.
tell me then, when would be our next opportunity to?
I'm not sure. It'll be a while, but that's okay. We'll get her on eventually. We'll try. I think she's going to go try to get headphones. I don't know. But while she does that, I will tell you that she's got this new book, and it's all about guardianship, which is really interesting. And let me just take the opportunity to share the cover of it with you. It's called "We're Here to Help When Guardianship Goes Wrong." So that's what we're going to talk about. And she says, Mark, that this is a $300 billion industry, the whole guardianship. And I didn't know that. So.
Well, it's not only that. It's not only a huge industry, it's largely unregulated.
Yeah.
So you've got these, this is a money grab on the part of so many. There was a movie with just that at its can you still not hear us, Diane Dimond? Yeah. Poor Diane Dimond.
I see she's got headphones on now. Should we try one more time?
Headphones don't work, she says.
No.
But well, we're going to have to reschedule. Can't we just use the phone, she says. Can't we just use the phone, Albert? Why can't we use the phone? Oh, it has to be done through Tony.
Yeah, Tony has all the fancy equipment.
Thanks,
Tony.
So she can you type that in? Do I have to type everything on this show? All through the stinking show, I got to talk to people and manage this. What's happening here, guys? Come on.
Why are you yelling?
Here, let me just explain to her. Yeah, we'll figure a new time. I know you're traveling, but we'll figure an alternative. And I wonder if we can't. I wonder if we can. We'll get her for you all. The bottom line is we'll get her for you all. Sorry about that, everybody watching live. It's a little bit of a tough moment. But if you could, Albert, if you would be so kind, or Kim, maybe Albert, because Kim is on right now. But if you could memorialize what I just wrote in an email and send it to her. You can see her email address. Albert, you see her email address, right?
Yeah, I'm currently trying to connect with her right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you could just get a phone number and tell her what our plan is, that would be great. Because even if we can record something with her, but we got to get Tony involved, so that'll be great. Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, but as Kim says, it's such a rich area of the law, and it's really unwatched. And these lawyers and guardians and conservators, they can charge between $250 and $600 an hour. So just on that, they make tremendous money on fees. And, sometimes they don't do anything. The whole world of guardianship is something that doesn't get a lot of attention until something big happens, like Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. But it's actually happening all the time. So,
and I think there's probably areas where it can be beneficial if someone needs help. Someone's, has a very strong case of dementia, or for whatever reason, they're not in their right mind and they need someone to take care of them and their finances and everything. Yeah. So there's a reason to have it in existence, but is it being abused?
Anyone can file a simple petition with the state court asking that a guardianship be established. And the answer, the question was from Karen. How do you become a guardian or conservator? Mm-hmm. I mean, anyone can file a simple petition.
So
Imagine
I could
that.
file a petition to be your guardian?
Yeah. Can you
but
imagine?
I would have to prove that you're incompetent, though, right?
Well, you'd have to prove something. This is what I want to get Diane on
Kim, how
for.
are you?
And they did actually, and she talks about this in her book, in the same way that a divorce might go down. You have a judge or jury, usually a jurist, I think, is usually a judge, who makes a determination. And sometimes the determination can be pretty arbitrary. So you can make whatever petition works. And the people who are in the business of conservatorships and guardianships, they know the boilerplate stuff to put in there to actually take over someone's life and finances. It's a scary area. Anyway, the book is from her, and we will have her on. And sorry that we couldn't get it organized in this moment, but we will have it for you, I promise. And if need be, I may record something, and we'll do it that way. So there you go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Sorry about that, guys. On a day that we really did start with something so great. We've had some terrific stuff, but what I was talking about is the way in which we had our first anniversary greeting.
Yeah.
That was sent to us by
Grady.
Grady is one of our main viewers and listeners, and he sent the greeting with a parrot on his shoulder.
Adorable.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, again, if you want to be part of our 1-year anniversary celebration, you can send us a 1-year anniversary greeting. Video or audio, short, less than 30 seconds, please. Send it to happyanniversarymts@gmail.com.
I did boost the audio on that video. I did do that during the show.
Oh, cool. All right. So Albert will share with you, and for those who are just joining, maybe you didn't see it, but
Albert, thank you.
This is Grady with a 1-year anniversary shout out to us.
Mark Thompson, thank you. Tougaloo says thank you. You've been the best. Been the best year listening to you. I respect everything you've done. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Peace.
I love it.
Oh,
Short,
that's cool.
sweet.
Yeah.
Tougaloo says hi.
They're so cute.
Yeah. Happy anniversary, mts@gmail.com. You may just want to send an audio message or a video message. Your family, your cat, your dog, whatever greeting. We're very excited to make it to 1 year. And believe me, it is by no means clear. We are month to month, so we do our very best to be here for you every day. But we couldn't do it without you. So really cool that we're making our 1 year mark. And we are going to do a special 1 year meet and greet, kind of meetup. That you'll get details on in the next week or so. And we do want to, in the next few weeks, begin our raffle, the idea for which we got from Nikki's show, the raffle of the box of special items. Some of those items are things that we'll tell you about, and some of them are surprise items. Right now, we're still in the business of putting the box together. Huge shout out, Al Anonymous. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Mm-hmm. I also got a couple of emails that I'll share with you right here at the end of the show. Let me see if
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yeah.
While you look for them, can I tell you about this story really quickly?
Please.
This is in Philadelphia. There were riots last night. There were supposed to be peaceful protests against a judge's decision to dismiss all charges against a former Philadelphia police officer. But what happened was all these stores were looted. So now, right now, all liquor stores in Philadelphia are shut down. There's like 49 retail wine and liquor stores, and they're closed down because of all the looting. No employees were injured. Some were understandably shaken. But yeah, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, they say, yep, we're done. There were 52 people arrested during all this looting, 3 juveniles, stores throughout Philadelphia's Center City District, and liquor stores looted Tuesday night.
Wow, that is big news. Thank you so much, Kim, for that. Scary. Scary in some of the big cities, Philadelphia among them. We got this email, and I got it from...
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Mo Direct. Remember Mo Direct?
Oh, yeah, Mo.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Thompson. David McCallum. This is somebody I wanted to mention on Monday, and somehow it just got pushed along, and we never got to David McCallum passing away. The impact of this actor on all media is incredible, but yet his name seems to have not been brought up in a timely manner. His commitment to entertain everybody dictates that we pay attention to the passing of this great actor, David McCallum. I don't have his obit in front of me, but Albert, maybe you could, if you would, please rally a picture of
Google it. He was
David
on
McCallum.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. There he is.
He's a Scottish actor who came to this country. He played a character named Ely Kiriakin in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It was the coolest show. He and who played opposite? It was Robert Vaughn played opposite him. Thank you. I'll take my prize off the air. So the character of Ely Kiriakin and the profile of Man from U.N.C.L.E. was his first big thing, right? And subsequently, he was in a bunch of stuff. But I think one of his most incredible things is that he was still vital at the end of his life here into his 80s, and now 90, I think, is what he was when he passed away. Again, if somebody could rally an obit, maybe you can see some of the specifics. Kim, I'm just kind of doing this off of just what I know from him. Yeah. But he was vital and appeared on, weekly he appeared in episodic television. I think he was in NCIS as the lab guy, right? Or as the doctor?
He was the coroner. He
The
was like
coroner, okay.
Ducky, Dr. Ducky, and his last name was Mallard, so they called him Ducky.
So
and he
great.
had this character where he was this wealth of knowledge of random topics. So he would just go on and on and on about nothing. But his character was lovable. He is a really great actor. He's been since the 1960s performing in different movies and TV shows. He was 90 years old when he passed away.
So
he had
he's
trained
still-
at the I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, he's at the Royal Academy. Is that what we're going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say he trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. He had many accents, so that was one of his things. They say he played a wide range of parts across theater, film, and television, from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar in Central Park to the voice of Professor Paradox on an animated TV show, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien.
Oh, sure. I was on
Yeah.
Ben 10. Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah,
Oh, well, you guys
absolutely.
have that in common then.
Yeah. How about that?
That's just really funny. But his big thing, most people remember him for either NCIS or The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in 1964, where he had a Russian accent. He was the Russian accented sidekick in that movie.
Yeah. What did Uncle stand for? It's being asked in the chat. That is really great knowledge. I don't know the answer. I'll tell you right up front. I don't even have a guess. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was adapted from a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what Uncle stood for. Does anybody know? Does the person who asked what Man from U.N.C.L.E. the Uncle stands for? No. United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. Thank you very much, Uncle.
Okay.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
But 90 years old, that's a nice long life.
There he is, and productive. I mean, as I was saying, working to the very end. Ely Karyakin. I wanted that Man from U.N.C.L.E., my neighbor. I don't remember any gifts from my childhood, really, except for a bike and a road race set that I got that I really wanted when I got them. I sometimes remember them. But all those gifts and all those Christmases and all those holidays or whatever, you just don't really remember anything that stands out. But I do remember this. My neighbor, next door neighbor, Peter, he got a Man from U.N.C.L.E. In a little plastic briefcase that you'd opened up, and it was like a red thing inside. And on that red thing was that weapon. You see the weapon that he's holding. And it was as real as the weapon that he's holding, meaning it wasn't not real at all. It was a plastic or some kind of, metal alloy type thing, but it looked like a real weapon, like the one that Ely Karyakin used in Man from U.N.C.L.E. Right there, you see it in his hand. That's what my next door neighbor Peter got. So I never got it. But to me, it's one of the most, if not the most memorable Christmas gifts that I never received. But it was just like, wow, I can't believe Peter's got the Man from U.N.C.L.E. gun. So anyway, that is a series that, lives from years ago. But obviously, NCIS is a massive, massive show. So that was Mo Direct who was reminding us to do something on that. He also had a second part of his letter, but I will save that for the future because it's a longer explanation. So rest in peace, David McCallum.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, what more do I have to do? Anything?
You have people to thank.
I do? Okay.
Sorry, Albert. I didn't mean to step on you.
Albert's been pretty
I think
busy.
is it Brian Kim here? I think that was during your news.
Brian Kim for $10 super sticker.
Big shout
Come
out.
on, Brian Kim. Shout out to you, Brian Kim. Thank you. Thank you for being part of our community. Wow. Brian Kim.
And I think
super
this was.
sticker.
Did you get Stan's during?
No,
Mark?
I didn't. Stan Pollock, my favorite CPA. Come on, Stan Pollock. Mark and John, always a good combo. John Rothmann he's talking about.
You can find that breakout video later today.
Randall Smith, hits us with a $2 super sticker. Thank you.
Big shout out.
Joan Quigley hits us for 20. Come on, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joan Quigley. I love a 20. And a big shout out for Joan.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Nutritionist Liz. It's not the gold bars that I promised, but here's $1.99. I'll take it.
Big shout out.
It's our big fundraising push on our 1-year anniversary. Thank you for everybody stepping up. For what you do for animals, Nutritionist Liz hits it with a buck.
Big shout out.
Shout out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Liz,
much.
I appreciate that so much, darling. We've done a lot today, but it's not
I'm
over.
Cheryl Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
We have a huge show tomorrow, and the after party live starts now.
Bye-bye.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.